Hi, my name is Sky. I'm an airline pilot, and I'm here to share how a diagnosis of stage 3 breast cancer at 36 years old led me on a journey of discovery and empowerment. It all started with a lump that my doctor initially dismissed. By late 2022, it had grown, and I was swept into a whirlwind of tests leading to my diagnosis. I felt like a passenger on a chaotic medical ride, simply being shuttled from one appointment to the next. When it came time to discuss my surgery, my surgeon, Dr. Lim, presented options for reconstruction. But none of them felt right to me. I wasn't interested in implants or complicated procedures. I just wanted to get back to flying. I found myself grappling with a question: do I have to do this? Dr. Lim patiently reassured me that I didn't have to rush my decision. I took some time to discuss it with my partner and my family. Then I discovered aesthetic flat closure through an Instagram post. This was a revelation. I connected with a community of women online who believed that a loss of one's breasts does not equate to a loss of femininity. Suddenly, I had found my people. Through this community, I also discovered essential questions to ask my surgeon about aesthetic flat closure. Questions like, do you have experience with AFC? What type of incision pattern do you plan on using? Is there anything about my anatomy that would make a flat closure challenging? What can I expect during my recovery? What results are realistic for me? Armed with this knowledge, I approached my next meeting with Dr. Lim not as a passenger, but as a member of the crew. I needed a modified radical mastectomy on the right side and requested a prophylactic simple mastectomy on the left for both symmetry and peace of mind. Dr. Lim respected my decision, and we charted a course for my surgery in July 2023. My recovery was a journey of its own, but with the support of my physiotherapist, I regained my strength and range of motion. After 595 days on the ground, I returned to flying in October 2024. As Amelia Earhart said, the most difficult thing is the decision to act. The rest is merely tenacity. I'm not here to convince you to choose aesthetic flat closure. Instead, I want to encourage you to explore all of your options and find the path that feels right for you, even if it's less common. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lotus. In December 2022, I was diagnosed with IDC and DCIS stage 1, grade 2-3 breast cancer. It was ER positive, PR positive, and HER2 negative. In January 2023, I had a lumpectomy on the right side and a sentinel node biopsy. I had more cancer and had a second lumpectomy. I did 20 rounds of radiation and started tamoxifen May 2023. That fall, I had my first post-treatment checkup. A mass was found. I would need what would be my 5th MRI biopsy. Thankfully, the results were negative. However, because I have a number of risk factors, it made sense for me to have a mastectomy. I chose a skin-sparing bilateral mastectomy with immediate reconstruction. In December 2024, I had the surgery, after which I had 8 expander fills. My expander to implant surgery was July 2025. Once completely healed, I'll get nipple tattoos. I love my decision. I love how I look. Looking back, I wish I had had the bilateral mastectomy when I was first diagnosed, but at that time I was in shock and scared and couldn't imagine not having my chest. Some tips I have is do what's right for you. Trust the process. It felt really fast at times, but also really slow. It really helped me to see examples of other women that had the same surgery. The expanders feel very different than implants, and don't be afraid to ask for help.
Hi, my name is Susie. I am a breast cancer survivor. My initial diagnosis was precancer, and with that, I was moved into a line to have my mastectomy and a DIEP reconstruction done very fast, hoping that the cancer would not develop. However, once the mastectomy was done, the cancer was discovered and I had to go through chemotherapy. Getting the news that I had something that was precancer was very difficult, and I had to make a decision based on the options that were available. And the options that were given to me were so broad, it felt very overwhelming. I was given the options of single mastectomy, single lumpectomy, double mastectomy, aesthetic mastectomy, a double aesthetic mastectomy, double DIEP flap, double tram flap, single DIEP, single tram flap, and all of those options, when you are looking at the possibility of cancer, is a lot to decide from. I am very grateful to my surgical oncologist for giving me all of those options, because I understand that those options were not always available to women, and they were presented to me as if each one was a personal choice that I was allowed to make based on what I felt was going to be best for me. And so I was very grateful for that. I somehow was able to have my mastectomy and my DIEP flap at the same time. And that made things very manageable from a personal perspective, of that when I woke up from my mastectomy, I woke up still feeling a little bit like myself. A lot not like myself, but a little bit like myself. The recovery from a DIEP flap reconstruction was described as very difficult. Difficult is an understatement. It is hard. When you're going through it, there's so much that you question whether it was the right thing to do, because it is so difficult to get through. Now that I am over a year out, and having heard stories of people who have had to go back many times for other kinds of surgeries and not their DIEP flap, I'm now very grateful. And I knew that it was going to be hard, and that was what I wanted. I wanted it to be still my body. And I am grateful that that was an option that I could access. And I could access that in a very timely manner. And I know that's not the case for everybody. So I appreciate the gift that I was given.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tina, and a few years ago, I was diagnosed with invasive ductal carcinoma, stage 1 breast cancer. My journey started when I found a lump in my left breast while showering and instinctively knew something was wrong. So it wasn't a total shock when a year later, my biopsy results confirmed my suspicions. While still devastating, the good news was that we caught it early. The medical team, from the doctors, nurses, admin staff, social workers, etc., were all very supportive and patient throughout the process with my many, many questions. The surgical oncologist gave me the option to do a lumpectomy with radiation or a mastectomy with the unknown of having to do radiation. And I was a strong candidate for a nipple-sparing mastectomy. Because I knew I didn't want to do radiation, I immediately knew I was having a mastectomy. After a lot of thought, I chose to do a double mastectomy with immediate implant reconstruction, and I was lucky to have that nipple-sparing option. It wasn't an easy choice, but I knew I wanted to have peace of mind. Surgery went really well. My lymph nodes were clear, which meant no chemo or radiation. Later, pathology showed there were abnormal cells in the other breast too, so I feel really grateful I made the decision to do both breasts. Recovery definitely had its ups and downs, but overall, I'm happy with the results. My ongoing treatment is just tamoxifen for 5 years, which feels manageable compared to everything I was bracing myself for. If I can share one thing, it's this: trust yourself, ask every question, and lean on the people around you. Early detection made all the difference in my story, and I feel incredibly thankful for how things turned out.
I'm actually very happy that I'm able to come and speak with everybody today. I wanted to begin with my journey. I was diagnosed with breast cancer in February 2021. It was a long journey at that point. I started off with a single mastectomy on my right side. From there, I started chemo about a month after that. I think the chemo had kind of messed a little bit with my recovery from my mastectomy, as I had run into a couple of infections. First, my nipple, I lost my nipple due to an infection. They had to cut it off there. And then about a month later, I had another infection, which resulted in me losing the implant when they did the mastectomy. I had immediate reconstruction at that time. So from there, I lost my implant, and I continued on with chemo. That went on for about 12 weeks. And then another 18 cycles of Herceptin. I had continued with that. Going forward, after my chemo had finished, which took about maybe a year altogether, I waited a little bit, and then I had a deep flap surgery. That happened last year, where they removed some of the fat or the tissue from my stomach, and they created a breast for me. It was a single breast on my right side. And that went fairly well until I lost a little bit of weight. When I lost the weight, I also lost the breast. So last year, which is probably about 8 weeks ago or so, I had another surgery where they created, actually I had implants. So they put an implant in on the right side, a full implant, and gave me a lift and a little implant on my left side. And that is my journey. So hopefully going forward, everything is just smooth sailing from here.
Hello, I'm Lana. I was 6 months postpartum, pumping for my baby, when I noticed blood in my breast milk. Soon after, I was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer, estrogen positive, progesterone negative. As a brand new mom, my world turned upside down. All I could think about was that my little boy might never remember me. In those early days, survival was the only focus. Aesthetics and reconstruction weren't even on my mind. But thanks to the incredible team at my cancer center, not only did I beat cancer, I also achieved reconstructive results far beyond what I had imagined. My treatment began with chemotherapy, followed by a double mastectomy. I chose the double mastectomy to reduce future risk, minimize the need for ongoing screening, and to achieve better symmetry. I started with temporary tissue expanders, which were gradually filled with saline after radiation. The process was surprisingly pain-free and gave my skin time to heal properly. About a year later, my expanders were replaced with permanent implants. Next, I'll go through 3D tattooing to recreate the nipple on the cancer-affected side, and I may consider some fat grafting to further refine the results. While reconstruction wasn't the initial priority, I can honestly say the outcome has lifted a huge emotional weight. I am endlessly grateful to my cancer center for their skill and compassion. They gave me both survival and a renewed sense of self. Today, I carry forward not just as a survivor, but as a mom whose son will indeed remember her. Strong, present, and whole.
Hi everyone, my name is Hope and this is my story. My breast cancer journey started in February of 2013 with a diagnosis that turned my world upside down. By the end of March, I'd gone through 2 lumpectomies and at the end of April, a bilateral mastectomy. This was all done at my local hospital. Those few months, everything was coming fast and furious. It was like learning a whole new language. Just a tip if you're going through this, start a folder. Keep all your notes, doctors, forms, everything together and take it to every appointment. Write down everything while it's still fresh in your mind, or have your partner or friend, somebody who's with you, write it down for you. My reconstruction was delayed, as I didn't know it was an option until a nurse asked me about it and asked if I'd considered it. Lucky for me, bra day was just around the corner. That first bra day was overwhelming and a little awkward, sitting in a theater with my fiancé, looking at the reconstruction outcomes on the big screen. This while I was not so much flat as I was concave. Anyway, I spoke to a few surgeons and I found one at Women's College Hospital that I felt comfortable with. He and the staff were amazing and kind. My reconstruction started at the end of 2015. I found the tissue expanders to be uncomfortable, so if you can get through that, then you'll be good. If I had it to do over again, I might ask if a slower expansion is possible. For me, originally, I had the textured implants put in, but then a few years later, those had to be removed and smooth ones replaced those ones. Overall, I am grateful for the surgical teams who supported me and for opportunities like Bra Day, where we can share our stories. If there's one thing I want others to know, it's that the path isn't always straightforward, but there are options and there is hope.
Hi, my name is Camberly and I'm 50 years old. So here's my story, told the way I lived it, through surgeries. In February 2019, I had my mastectomy with immediate reconstruction. Big day, big surgery, and I thought, okay, this is the mountain. I've climbed it. Then came radiation, which felt like a marathon after the mountain, exhausting, but I crossed that finish line too. By 2021, though, I started noticing things weren't right. My skin was tightening, hardening, and the implant was pulling uncomfortably. That's what's called contracture. Add to that some skin discoloration, and suddenly my new normal wasn't feeling so normal. We went back in to see if we could remove some of the scar tissue that was causing the contracture. I got rid of most of it, but it wasn't enough. So we started looking at other options to regain some of my symmetry. Fast forward to May 2023, a year I like to call the year of medical plot twists. I went in for a DIEP flap surgery, which was supposed to be the gold standard, or the standard, I guess, except the flap failed. I wasn't getting enough blood flow, I guess, and just like that, I lost my right breast again. This time, though, the implant was gone and I didn't have the skin to cover the wound. So every day I'd have to go to the clinic and have my dressings changed to make sure that the open wound stayed healthy. It felt like being pushed back to square one, only this time with more scars and a slightly darker sense of humor. Later that same year, I was finally able to have a lateral flap surgery with an immediate expander implant. So they take the skin and the lat muscle in your back, remove the skin, and put it to the front right breast. Tunnel the lat muscle through the armpit area, just like the cup of a bra, and attach it to your chest. Then they put the expander in as a temporary implant into the new cup holder. Imagine a balloon that you're not excited about inflating. That was me, walking around with this expander. Every few weeks, I would inflate to stretch the skin taken from my back. It's also crazy, and that's what you're seeing here. This picture was taken in October 2024. I still had the expander inside. The month later, the surgeon switched out the expander for the real implant. That moment felt like closure. My body and I could take a deep breath together again. So here I am, almost 6 years later, multiple surgeries, radiation, endless appointments, and one failed reconstruction later. Still standing, still me. A little stitched together, a little tougher, with more stories than I'd ever thought I'd collect by the age of 50.
Hello, my name is Katrina. I had reconstruction in 2013. My diagnosis was initially I had 2 tumors, which was supposed to be lumpectomies, but then when I had an MRI, there were too many bad cells, so I had to have a mastectomy. That was recommended. I also had 19 lymph nodes removed, and the prognosis was estrogen and progesterone receptors were positive, and my HER2 was negative. I did have 6 cycles of chemo and 25 days of radiation. So I was sent to see a plastic surgeon as soon as I said I was interested in reconstruction, hoping that I could do the reconstruction at the same time as the mastectomy. But apparently that wasn't possible at the time. And I must admit, I was quite disappointed. And I did go to one of the very first broad days. So I had time to do that and see. This surgery was, I'm going to be honest, a lot more to recover from than I actually planned. But in the end, I was quite happy that I did that. And I did get quite tired and did not want to do the nipple reconstruction, but then Dr. Hoffer was so patient and said, let's just go all the way. So I did have nipple reconstruction and areola tattoos, which in the end I was very glad I did. So I've been fortunate. I've had no pain or discomfort in the long run. But I was very, very careful with the instructions and post-op and the exercises. So I followed all that. And I do have just maybe a little bit of advice for women who are considering reconstruction. Number one, I would say gather as much information from your doctors and reliable sources, because everybody has an opinion that's around you, but you need to do what's best for you. And it's important to know that nobody is you. So you're the one that's going to be able to actually feel comfortable with your decision.
I was diagnosed with stage 3 ductal carcinoma in February of 2021. And I did 8 rounds of chemo before having a single mastectomy and radiation. I had planned on doing a DIEP reconstruction from the start, and my plastic surgeon had given me every indication that I would be a candidate for immediate reconstruction at the same time as my mastectomy. I only learned a week before my surgery that I wasn't a candidate for this because of the extent of my original tumor. And learning that so late in the day was really devastating. I knew I was having radiation as well, and that the protocol here in Ontario is to wait at least 6 months, but ideally a full year from the end of radiation before doing any reconstruction. So that's what happened. I had a flat closure on my right side for 10 months before having my DIEP surgery in May of 2022. The initial surgery lasted for 8 hours and it went smoothly. My new breast attached well. There weren't any issues with my abdominal surgery site. Because I'm self-employed, I plan to take 2 weeks off for recovery. In the end, I took some meetings in the second week. I think I was able to get back to work so quickly because I had worked on my strength and endurance before surgery by doing a lot of walking, plank exercises. That really helped. In October of 2022, I had what DIEP patients often call phase 2, which was another shorter surgery to correct some dog-leg areas on my abdominal scar, liposuction to fill some areas on my chest, and to create a nipple. The nipple didn't end up taking well. It was reabsorbed. So I got a 3D nipple tattoo that I'm pretty happy with. And in February 2024, I had a final surgery to correct the shape of my reconstructed breast. Both of those surgeries had a really minimal downtime. I'm really happy with the results of my DIEP breast. It feels natural, looks quite similar to my other breast. Before having the surgery, I was concerned about the extent of the wound sites that would be created, but both have healed well. And I'm also, in retrospect, really glad that I waited that period of time after my radiation. I did have some late radiation effects, mainly skin redness, areas of hardness. And I think if I hadn't waited that time, they might have been more severe.